Welcome back to Tiny Little Victories, the podcast that talks to humans who are changing the world. Okay, everybody, welcome back to Tiny Little Victories. And this is one of my favorite episodes because I got two guys, not one, two guys in New York, Casey Ritts and Pete Gosselin from a brand new ad agency on the show. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
And you guys, nobody knows who the hell you are. So what we're going to do is like a little pod poly. So when you guys start talking, people are like, oh, that was Casey. Oh, that was Pete. So I'm going to start with you, Pete. Is your name Pete Gosselin?
My name is Pete Gosselin. Well pronounced, by the way. I got to say, 80% failure rate. So well done. Well done.
80%? I feel like a winner. I feel like a winner now. Okay. And are you sitting in the state of New York?
I am sitting in the state of New York right now.
And do you have a red car on your desk?
I do have a red car on my desk.
All right.
I trade crypto, you see, so.
Oh, you trade crypto. That's how you got the red car?
That's how I'm going to get the red car. How about that?
That's how you're going to get the red car. Is the red, for everybody out there, you know, we do audio, but we do a video record so we can see each other's faces. And Pete does have a red car on his desk. Okay, now to your pod poly for you, Casey. Is your name Casey Ritts?
Yes, my name is Casey Ritts. Easier to pronounce.
Yeah. Are you from Austin, Texas?
Yes, ma'am, I am. I am from Austin.
Oh, see, that's how we're going to know. He's got that little tiny lilt in his little Texas voice. And are you living in Dumbo in a building called 220 Water?
I am. Still here. Loving it.
Okay. You guys, everybody out there, that's how I met Casey. We lived in the same gigantic former shoe factory known as 220 Water. Magical place, 90 million foot ceilings. I mean, how tall were those?
Yeah, they're high.
They're really
that might
high?
be a slight exaggeration, but there's some pretty high ceilings, that's for
Maybe
sure.
50 foot, 50 feet.
There you go.
Maybe.
All right.
Okay. And so we met there in the big lobby area, and we got to talking. Just Casey's personality is so outgoing. He was at a very big agency called Havas, and he was always busy, very busy working. But, from Texas, so he's got this big Texas thing. And now fast forward to here we are this year in 2025, and you and Pete have started a new agency called the Cape Agency. Is that right?
That's right. We really just go by Cape, but sometimes it's good to clarify that it's an advertising agency, so
it's Cape, the Cape Agency. It's very mysterious. Why Cape?
That's a great question. It actually kind of goes back to how we met, our history. So we could maybe walk you through a little.
Yeah, take us through.
Backstory.
Everybody, all of us listeners, take us through.
Okay. Pete, I can go first if you want.
Yeah, this is you.
So as you said, grew up in Texas, all things Texas, went to University of Texas, all of it.
Are you going to do a Matthew McConaughey accent first, though? Can we have your...
I'm terrible at it.
Okay. Because every time people say that, I'm like, I want someone to do a Matthew McConaughey accent.
It would be much cooler if I could imitate him better, but no.
Okay, but wait till the end. Give you like 30 minutes to come up with something.
I'll give it a shot. While I was still in school, I landed an internship at an agency down there called GSD&M, which has had its ups and downs. But while I was there, they were really humming. They were on fire. And I got to be exposed to the industry for the first time as a college kid. And I loved it. I just loved it. There were so many different things going on. I loved working with creative talent. I loved the process of bringing business and creativity together. There was just something about it that kind of grabbed me. So when I graduated, I moved to New York, which is not
as one does,
terribly unique story, but I decided to give it a go, and I was lucky enough to get a job in a not so great post 9/11 economy, but I got my start and I was, up and running. And within a couple of years, I always like to say I kind of fell backwards into my first agency startup.
Okay.
Where my former boss basically asked me to join as an equity partner.
Okay.
Which I had no business doing. I was like 24
do we
old.
have any business doing anything? Like, I don't know.
But the clients that we were bringing with us were my relationships. So that was my first lesson, was the value of relationships in this business. I loved being entrepreneurial, especially that young, because I didn't know any better. So I had just enough naivete and just enough exposure to the industry to be excited about it. Lasted a couple of years. I learned a lot, things to do, things not to do. And I can kind of consider that my real world business school.
Okay. That's probably better than like trying to force yourself to learn, because they're not going to teach you the things that you screw up, right?
Yeah.
You're never going to get that lesson of the value of relationships in a class.
You know, one of the things I love about this business is it's kind of human beings just working with each other. I know it's a little vague, but we try to overcomplicate everything. And at the end of the day, we're just humans trying to get stuff done.
Totally.
And I always treated my clients as human beings, not just as a client or a widget or a goal.
An alien. Yeah.
We just nurtured really good relationships. And
yeah.
So that was definitely a real world lesson. But the other one, human beings, was the people that you get into a partnership with, you need to really understand whether it's going to be a good fit or not.
That's true. Because it's like your marriage, just like a marriage. Like you really are. Yeah. Pete's nodding his head like very vigorously for anybody who can see.
And then when you've got, people have families to feed, mortgages to pay for, that's a lot of responsibility when you own a business. So I learned a lot from that. But primarily my career, it has only been in New York City. So I've been here 25 years and been around all the major holding companies, a variety of big agencies until, like you said, I landed at Havas. And that was where Pete and I met.
Okay. So yeah.
What was I? Maybe 4 years into my stretch there when Pete arrived. We still kind of joke about the stars aligning for him to show up almost like the right person at the right time.
I mean, I do think that happens if you're investing in some of the things that were important to you, like relationships and valuing people and the human aspect. Like you would naturally gravitate to somebody that would have that same like approach to life and to work because they're kind of mingled.
Yeah.
What did like Pete come in the room and he was just like a little halo around him. It was like, this moment of Pete, here he is.
It was actually pretty funny because, at agencies, we tend to work a little too late and we tend to pop open a cold adult beverage after, 6 p.m., 4 p.m., 3 p.m., whatever it is. It wasn't like Pete walked in with, angels singing and a spotlight around him. Although he might say it was.
Totally. I'm feeling like, looking at Pete, I'm feeling like that's what he brought to the table.
2 weeks in, we're sitting in a conference room having some cold, cheap beer. And that's when we kind of joked that the bromance started because we got like real honest, real fast.
What was an example of the real honest? Do you remember? Like, what was it that you felt like was the common denominator there?
I tried to have a version of the conversation with so many different people in my career, as well as at Havas, where it's like, I think I like this person. I like to really just sort of like see what they're about. So you kind of have to open up in order to see how somebody's going to respond. And I can't even remember exactly what we were talking about. I think we were talking probably something as mundane as what work we're doing, what we'd like to do. And then all of a sudden, we just started talking about life and stuff and things.
Real stuff.
Exactly.
Stuff and things. And, that's a good name for an agency, Stuff and Things.
And so within, a couple of hours of having this conversation, I remember leaving that conversation thinking, boy, I'd like to go into business with that guy. We hadn't even done our thing.
I have a totally different story and
I was just gonna say, Pete, let's talk. This is a dating show.
Yeah.
It arrives at the same moment with a completely different perspective, and a completely different take on the whole thing. Okay, so
go. It's your turn.
Originally from Canada, I grew up like a ski instructor, and so far as I knew, I was never going to work in advertising. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, but my girlfriend in Canada got an opportunity to move to the UK to do a master's in sports biomechanics. So I followed her over there like a lovesick puppy would. And I found, because I couldn't be a ski instructor in the UK, it rains a lot, but it doesn't snow. So I thought I should figure out what career I'm going to get into or whatever. I started reading advertising books and I was just like, this is it. I'm going to go be an ad thing.
Oh my God.
I didn't even know what jobs existed.
I'm going to go read an advertising book.
I'm going to read an advertising book until somebody just offers me a job doing advertising. So
Love it.
I spent a decade in advertising agencies in London. I spent some time in
Wow.
Amsterdam. I moved to New Zealand. I was there for 3 and a bit years. Then I moved to New York. I've worked in top agencies all around the world. In New York, I was at Gray, Droga 5. Then I show up at Havas. I've, had I don't want to say a spectacular career, but it was pretty good. Like I'd won awards and done the right
Yeah.
things. I'd been to the right schools and done the right agencies, all the right things.
Yeah.
And I had this reputation for burning agencies down. Literally, I would do anything to get a good piece of work out. I was just on this tear where I would work somewhere a year, 2 years, destroy all of the relationships that I had built. I would set the whole place on fire just for a piece of work. And then I sit down in a room with this dude who's like, I believe in long-term relationships and I think that we're going to build something here. And I was just like, what the hell is this? Who is this guy?
You're like, this is exactly opposite of my whole MO.
I have no idea what you're talking about, man. And so I think I was probably just in the room stunned with Casey for that conversation. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the question that you asked at the start, which is how did we come to the name? So the way that we started working together, and we really came together, over a number of years, we were very successful with our team, both from awards and from financial. We made great work and we had great relationships with clients. We really delivered the full package. And we started saying that there's a way that we are. There's a way that we're working, that our team likes. We struggled to define what that was. So we started calling it the Casey and Pete way. And the Casey and Pete way became Cape. I know, I can see you laughing. I know, it's funny, but
I'm laughing, like you said, because you guys are ad guys and this is what you do, like the Casey and Pete show. Like, okay, this makes total, it might be an expletive now, fucking sense. Like,
yeah, it does, right?
I'm laughing because of your brain. Your brain's on fire, man. I get it. Like Casey described you as a tech nerd, tinkerer, and like you are a hardcore like ad writer. And I think like you just described the perfect like relationship right there. Like, so now I see why it's Cape. It's basically the Casey and Pete show, basically.
Yeah, we played around with a bunch of stuff, right? We didn't want it to sound like a rock band that you couldn't really place like who they were. Or we didn't want it to sound like a law firm, which is kind of the old school way to do it, which is cool, like to each their own. But for us, like neither one of those routes were perfect. And we kept trying to verbalize this thing, and it was just a snooze fest. And
you were corporatizing yourself. You were like
it was
doing
terrible.
exactly why people hate ad agencies. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I don't want you to think that it's just us. That success that we built was built around a team that worked really well together. And we're doing what we can to pull that team back in at the moment.
Yeah.
It's certainly not just about us, but there was something about the way that group operated that we're definitely trying to rekindle. And so, yeah, for lack of a less corporate way of saying it, that was the thing that we were trying to do. And so,
yeah,
I want to go into that little descriptor, the tech nerd crazy thing or whatever.
Please.
I want you to know, like, there's this thing about ad writers, especially in America, where they're wannabe movie writers, they're wannabe SNL sketch writers, they're wannabe novelists or wannabe poets. And like, they just couldn't get a job doing the thing that they wanted to do. So they kind of failed their way into advertising. That group definitely exists. But I want you to know that there are people out there who their passion is advertising. The thing that they want to do is advertising. I think it's like a subculture of advertising.
What do you mean a subculture? Like, let's look at the advertising world, and there's those wannabes, right? Like you said, like people that just think it's cool and I'm having 8 martinis, or I don't know if we're drinking those anymore.
I don't think that there were a lot of people who wanted to be in advertising prior to Mad Men. Like Mad Men opened the door to like, oh, advertising itself is a cool thing. But prior to that, I think a lot of people, they saw a creative career, which, by the way, is not what you think it is. But they saw a creative career and they thought, I could do that while I
do something else. Yeah. Well, I get this other master's in something.
Yeah. Or, while I'm a playwright or while I'm an actor or while I'm okay, cool. That's great.
Yeah.
But there are people who are really into advertising. And I think when you're really into advertising, it's not just a craft of making a piece of entertainment or of making a sketch.
Yeah.
I think people who are really into it from a creative point of view do that thing where they are trying to look at the puzzle from all the different angles. And
Okay.
that's more what it is. It's like a business problem solver rather than,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're right, though. I think it's a really good point. I was going to ask you guys to talk about that a little bit because I do think there's stereotypes around advertising, right? I mean, we've all Mad Men. I didn't watch the show. First couple episodes, it's like, oh boy. But I get it. Like, so for you guys, you've created a new ad agency in New York City among all these ad agencies. And so I know the game has changed a lot, right? You've got a lot of things to deal with. There's AI, there's ROI, you've got spreadsheets, like that's your point. Like, it's not all the glamour that people think it is. It's literally a psychological game, right? So since you guys have been in the industry so long, what is changed for you and what is Kate doing that's going to go away from that model, or are you going away from that model?
I think that's a great question. So I think the obvious answer is that the world we live in, how we get content, how we communicate, technology, everything that surrounds us completely flipped upside down the past 20 years, right? Like the amount of change that's happened from, there was this thing called Facebook in colleges when I first got to New York, and what we have now is insane. And a lot of that was driven by advertising technology is what drove so much of that evolution. And we've all watched how entire industries have grown overnight and others have been completely disrupted and changed. And advertising evolves kind of its own way, I think, alongside that. And we've had digital marketing specialists, social media specialists. We've had the big agencies that kind of do their best to keep being classic storytellers and try to evolve alongside that. Maybe they gobble up a bunch of agencies for their expertise. But in a whole, the way that the broader advertising sort of agency world has, I don't know if failed is the right word, but the amount of evolution that should have, I think, happened, for whatever reason, seems to have kind of gone in a different direction. And I think part of that is probably the way the business models have worked and maybe the holding companies, that there's fiduciary
That's all the business bottom line. Yeah.
Right. To public companies. And I totally understand if you're running those, why you need to make those decisions, because you're accountable to your shareholders by law. So that's what you have to focus on. And then that creates a certain dynamic of what it takes to survive within those organizations. Again, not that there's anything wrong with running a business to grow and do well and perform and deliver value, but at heart, this is an industry you're supposed to deliver value for your clients. That's your focus. And so I think what we've seen is there's been this sort of separation of what's most important for my clients and what can I do to make money.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think for us, we've been in that system. We've grown up in that system. We've watched where excellence lives, and we've watched where maybe, people haven't innovated or evolved, changed with the times or whatever you want to call it. And so it made us what we are. But I think what we also saw, what Pete was talking about, was that there was sort of this better way, I guess, from our perspective, which was to kind of take more of a human perspective on how to operate. And, I was joking about it earlier with how I treat relationships, just be a human, like a real human being, not like a corporate automaton. But at heart, that's kind of what we plugged in, which was, okay, you're a client, right?
Yeah.
You have your stresses in your job. You have all these pressures. You want to excel. You want to succeed. You've probably been burned either by colleagues or other companies or other agencies. So trust is a big one. So being treated there.
Yeah.
And so when we started from there, we weren't just making ads for people.
Yeah.
We were solving their own distinct challenges in their role. We were helping to solve challenges for their organization. And what we found when Pete and I were working together in this collective, massive group of people that had this culture of just jumping in and, solving any problems or challenges that came up, was that our clients would come to us with almost anything. And it wasn't necessarily an advertising problem.
Just because they trusted you.
We had clients that would come to us and say, I want to launch my own OTT network. What can you tell me about that? So I use this description because that's the thing that we love. We love bringing creativity to the table to help solve business challenges. And you hear that in the industry, but we really got to live that. And so for us, it was like, okay, there's a core of that we love doing. At heart, we consider ourselves ad guys in an advertising agency. But if we bring that philosophy into how things operate now, clients are looking for agency partners that have that level of perspective about what matters most about their business, and maybe not necessarily something that's going to win that agency an award. Nothing wrong with awards. You should be given an award if you do well.
Yeah, but like those are so value signaling, right? It's all the industry keeping the industry invested in the industry. And to your point, like, sure, you're making that ad that I don't even want to go into that. But I think what you're saying is like, you guys are literally genuinely what I hear is that this is about trust, and companies today need and have problems to solve. And you're right. Like, are you the agency? Are you like Mother? Are you just going to be doing things to like win awards and then list all your awards out? Like, is that actually serving your client? Maybe it is, but is it?
I think there are a lot of people and a lot of agencies that will win an award because they showed up and they delivered for their client, and they're going to go get credit for that. I'm all for that.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of other folks, unfortunately, just the incentive structure, like we talked about on the financial end, right? You've got to be accountable to your shareholders.
Yeah.
That to survive and to grow and to succeed, you have to have those gold stars on your shirt or on your report card. And I get it. I get why that's so important to a lot of people. But that being said, for what we were trying to do was to honor that thing that allowed Pete and I to have so much success with this incredible group of people, clients, our agency colleagues, the team, all of it, and sort of not live in the past, but sort of grab what was special about that.
Yeah, grab what was good, bring it with you.
Which was delivering excellence and succeeding because of it. And at the heart of that, when we opened our doors, every single ex-client, ex-relationship, ex-whatever that we reached out to say, hey, we're doing this thing, was an immediate yes.
I mean, okay, let's just stop right there and put a pin in that, because every single person said yes. Like, that had to have been a sign to both of you, Pete with his burn it down attitude and you with your like handshake of love. Like, that has to be the perfect peanut butter and jelly combination for you guys.
Yeah. And, even listening to Casey tell the story of like what it is, I got a different way of arriving there, but we arrive at the same place.
You guys are literally like Denmark and Sweden, because when they went to build that bridge between Malmö, they had this huge project, and the Danes are, like Vikings, are like, we'll just fucking get it done. We'll just start digging. The Swedes are like, I don't know. We need a committee. We need some planning, blah, blah, blah. They had like 5 years. They ended up there at the same time, but completely different approaches. And if you've ever been to either country, that's exactly still the same.
But you are right. It was very, very vindicating. It was very good. It felt really good when clients said, that thing that you guys do, I want to be part of that. And I'm not just going to limit it to the clients too. It's the staff, the people that worked with us.
Oh,
they're doing it too. And, again, just like raising that level of, we're not doing this for money. We're not doing this for awards. We're doing this for a team, and we're going to build it all together for the benefit of the client. I mean, that's a powerful thing, and at odds with what everybody else is doing. So
totally. I love that you said that, Pete, because you're absolutely right. It is at odds. And like, I love that this agency is built at odds with a standard model that's been accepted. And this is what's wrong with the world, but we won't go into that today. It's like, if you're not going to break something that does need to be fixed, like, how can you affect any change? Because the fact is, there might genuinely companies, or I've seen the list of companies that you work with, but they will not survive if they don't target that audience and tell that right story. They won't survive. They could be climate change companies. They could be companies that are helping with, recycling, or like recycling, like, wind turbines. That's a real thing in Texas, Casey. I think what you guys are doing is literally, I think the model needs to be broken there. I'm just going to say it. All you ad agencies out there besides Cape, like, the model needs to be broken because it's broke.
I heard a good analogy about this the other day, that they are like aircraft carriers in the age of FPV drones, right?
Love it.
They are slow moving and decided in their nature, and we are quick and nimble and able to do things on the ground. It's a terrible analogy, especially in the current climate of the world, but it is true that the world has changed, and we need to accept that the world has changed and
Agree.
move in this new direction. Now, that's not to say, as Casey said a minute ago, we fucking love ads. I love advertising. I do. I love it. And whether that needs to be for a particular client, one medium or another, again, I'm not waking up in the morning deciding that I need to write, poetry or a headline on a poster in Times Square
Yeah.
or a TV spot. I really don't care what it is. But whatever it is,
Yeah.
I want to do that, and I will pursue that to its end. And some clients genuinely need TV ads. Some clients genuinely need banner
Yeah.
systems.
That's what makes Pete different, is
I
that,
want a t-shirt that says that with Pete. Like, I want what Pete says.
yeah, honestly, it sort of has become my job to like package up Pete and then label it Cape in a way. Because that was the thing when he showed up, was that we had incredibly talented people working on our pieces of business, but there's this thing that Pete has, which is that he's a classic storyteller in advertising. He loves advertising, but he's also, like, I was joking about it, he's a tinkerer. He's an engineer at heart. He likes to break things apart and then put them back together and see where that goes.
Yeah.
And so that's how he approaches challenges, is that he lets, real data, research, strategy help guide where he sees the solution, so that it's not just the same formula over and over again, a really funny TV spot, or it has to be social media or whatever it is.
Yeah. You don't care what it is. Pete's going to like put it into the Pete machine, like based on those things, then come out with what is best for them, not tick a box this, tick a box that.
I'm so bad at tick a box. Maybe that's like just
me too. That's my problem. Like,
yeah. Why are we doing this thing? If your problem is higher or lower or this or that.
Yeah.
I remember, this is 100 years ago, back when I was graduating my postgrad in the UK. But I remember we went to a jobs fair, and one of the industry leaders asked me what my favorite medium was. And I was just like, soap on a rope? Like, I don't know. It depends what the right message at the right moment does the job. And if that is in the shower, then like I will put a message on soap on a rope. Like, that's what I'll do.
That cliche, that thing that you just said, the right message at the right time. All these clowns out there have just literally glommed all over these things, and they've like boiled them down to they mean nothing. That's what I think has happened. So when you say the right thing, that's fucking what everyone should be doing. That's what bothers me. It's like, stop boiling everything down, because that is true. Like, what do you need may not be what you need next week. Like,
and I'm a big fan of AI. Don't get me wrong with the statement that I'm about to say.
I'm with you. I'm aboard.
It helps. It's great. But when we're talking about creative tonnage and, how many emails or how many thousands of banners that can be generated per minute, per hour, like it's just not going to replace the thing that Cape is going to be able to provide. The thing that Cape is going to be able to provide is the very tippy point of the spear that's going to pierce through the audience and, quite frankly, create something that hopefully the audience wants to engage with. They see something. And this is the thing, right? I ask people like, don't you love advertising? And, you'd say that to my mom or my dad or my brother. And like,
yeah,
they say, God, no, there's nothing worse than advertising. But that's because they see the tonnage, right? They don't see the craft of it. They're not waiting for the one message that's delivered directly into their laps. So when you see those things, when you're exposed to that level of it, it is amazing and liberating. When you feel truly seen by these brands, you feel reflected, you feel, there's an affinity that you develop. And 30 emails with your name at the top just won't change that.
Yeah. Everything you're saying like is so refreshing, Pete, because it's like you're cutting through the crap and the garbage and the film and the goo and everything, because that is authentically the truth. And I bet you if you got 20 people in a room, that's, I'm just so fatigued by this. Like, you can see the glaze over on clients' face where you get this thing again. It's like, and also they don't know what they're looking at. They just get the same like little worm tongue in their ear, get banners, get a thing, get Super Bowl, I don't know, get whatever. And I find this really refreshing, because to me, you're bringing it back to that sort of authenticity of like, how do we get women to smoke a cigarette? Let's just put a bunch of women out here with a cigarette back behind a theater, right? Like, let's just take a picture of them and put them in a magazine.
I'll send you one of my favorite ads of all time. It's close to that.
Please.
Not exactly that,
but the simplicity of that, right? It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, and to be, at the epicenter of the advertising world. Look, we're not on Madison Avenue. I don't think we would ever be on Madison Avenue. But I will say, the Super Bowl People tune in to watch the ads. I've never heard of anybody say, I just want to watch the football game. I wish there were no ads on there. No way. And like, imagine if you went to Times Square and they didn't have ads there. Like,
Yeah.
people want advertise. They crave it. It is a craft. It is a medium. You just have to deliver it in a way that people want.
I love that because I don't think, have you had anybody like say to you, are you guys crazy? Open up an ad agency? Has anybody said to you, what?
Oh.
Nobody said that, right?
Every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, mostly my wife, but yeah, every day.
Okay, well, wives say stuff like that, so you just have to dismiss them. Sorry, wives. I know we're close to being out of time, but I guess the biggest thing I want to ask, first of all, this has been a fantastic conversation, and that you guys are like, the two of you need a show on the road. Like, I've known Casey, but I know you, Pete, and I'm like, his human approach, and you guys are the perfect example of like two entirely different minds coming together to create something new. And what would you like to leave people? Because not all of our listeners are advertising. We have companies, startup companies, every kind of person. What is it that you want to leave the world with today on this show? Like, is there anything you want to say to people?
That's a big question. Here's what I'd say. And I actually think this kind of stretches from our own lives as well as what I might consult a client on, which is give yourself the chance to succeed. And that doesn't mean you have to burn it all down and walk out and start up a company.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to follow our path or anybody else's. But, we've been so trained to sort of have certainty in our decision making that sometimes people just stop making decisions. And I think that's one of the things that we've learned as entrepreneurs and as people that work in a creative industry is that you're never going to have 100% certainty. And frankly, life has managed risk. And sometimes you've just got to say the thing, do the thing, step out and give it a shot.
I love that. I really love that because everybody in the show is all about stepping out of that comfort zone and creating something. You listen to some of these episodes, some of these guests, like they're like, I didn't even know I could do that. Like Pete's like, I'm just going to get an advertising book and read it. And now he's literally needs to give every TED talk on advertising.
What did Casey say then? Give yourself the opportunity to succeed. I would say fail faster. Learn to find the opportunities where you can test stuff that could fail. I think entrepreneurs through to the biggest businesses, I think especially, the big behemoths are so worried about losing 0.01% that they don't think about taking those risks. And
so true.
You can, if you're willing to take risks, the opportunity on the upside is incredible. I said the same thing as Casey, just in a totally different way.
You know what? It's so true, Pete. Like these things, they go together though, because this is the Casey way. And I think your way, storming around agencies, countries, like all these different countries. And that is true. That balance is the same. Like you want to succeed, give yourself the chance. But to your point, fail faster and test what works, what doesn't work. And, I like to say life is messy. Like just let it be messy and then put your own like control systems in place, because then I think you're making change and then you're breaking that mold that's been broken. And I'm so thrilled for you. I've just met you, Pete, but I've known Casey and always thought he had a really awesome brain. And he's a very like authentic human person. So I just so excited about Cape, and we're going to put Cape and the Cape Agency, whatever you want to call it, into the show notes. And I want everyone to go see it because first of all, it's a really, really cool site with a sewing machine doing stuff. So I think you need to go check that out and reach out to those guys. We're going to put all of your contact details in there so people can follow you and connect with you and just like keep busting it, man. I love it. I really appreciate this. Great show.
Thank you, Jennifer.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did, Jennifer. I told you I'd try it.